Cybertron, the home world we Autobots have strived to protect from the Decepticons, can no longer sustain us. Eons of civil war have caused the greatest of casualties. Our planet's very core has shut down, halting its production of life-giving energon. Most of us have abandoned our home in hopes of finding a new life among the stars. I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. We do not know how many of our brothers escaped Megatron's blockade. I can only be certain of this. Just one transport remains.
Alright guys, welcome back to Let's Play Transformers Fall of Cybertron. So, I think I made my point there about saying the cutscenes are awesome in this game, especially compared to the first one where the cutscenes weren't really all that great. So, our second Autobot mission here after the opening prologue, we are going to be playing as Optimus Prime. We don't have a choice this time, we can't choose between 3 characters anymore, as I said in the last video. Which means there's no co-op, but it does mean we get a much more story-focused mission, and we get to go places and do some more interesting things. All the characters are still here from the previous game, including some new ones, not all of which we get to play as in single player, but at least we get to play as all of them in Escalation and multiplayer, so that's nice. Let's see, Jetfire's back. He's still voiced by Troy Baker, which is awesome. All the voice acting is great in this game, even for the new characters. Especially Jazz. We'll go into more detail about that later. So, before we get too carried away here, I want to show off a little Easter egg. I'm not sure what the significance of this is, or why they... It's kind of a weird one, but... Over here in this back wall is Optimus Prime's axe from the previous game, which we can't use in this game for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why this was an effective Easter egg or anything. Now, there is a audio diary back here when you first time you do this mission. If you collect it, you can't collect it again, though. So, one of the things I was debating doing for this LP was getting all of those and showing them on screen, but I'd have to make a new account for that, and at that point I wouldn't have any upgraded weapons. I wouldn't know if it would be a good idea to do this on hard then, so that was just one of the things that I decided against, so I will not be showing all the audio diaries on screen, unfortunately. But, go buy the official strategy guide if you want to know where those are then, so... Which I plan to do eventually for collectability's sake.
It's targeting the Ark.
Yeah, I don't really like the new melee attacks in this game. I think the animation is lame compared to how it used to be. So let's roll out! Since I'm not taking the time to look for audio diaries, I'm just going to blast my way through this level. Now, this is one of my favorite things about this level, is just the epicness that's going on around you while you're just plowing through everything in Optimus Prime's truck mode. And unlike in the previous game, they actually make his truck mode feel really powerful. It doesn't have a, there are some, I'll talk about that later actually, but there are, not just in the speed and the sound of it all, but the damage that you do by ramming into enemies. You don't, vehicles have a speed boost now, and you have an additional boost you can use instead of like a dodge roll to the side or whatever. So there's our first encounter with some Decepticon enemies over here, just regular Decepticon soldiers. And our first weapon we have here is the Path Blaster, which is Optimus Prime's signature weapon. And it's basically the replacement for the pistol in the first game, but it does not have a scope, but it's your sort of semi-auto precision headshot weapon. And it's nice, but honestly I do not recommend it for trying to get headshots, because you'll just be wasting your time, because without that scope it's really hard to get a headshot on them. As you can see, this is the upgraded version, so it looks a little bit cooler, and it has this preposterously powerful explosion attack that you've been seeing here a couple times now. And what that is I forget what that attack is actually called, but there's a random, I'll have to look at the upgrade and see what it's actually called, but it's the final upgrade. It adds, one of the shots in your clip is going to be like, however many times as powerful as the regular shot. And it's pretty awesome for that reason. You can blow away even really tough enemies with that shot. And it's random which shot in the clip it is, but if you can get it to be early in the clip like it is right now, and if you whenever you reload it changes where it is, or if you transform and come back into your robot mode it changes where it is. But if you just swap weapons in robot mode, it won't change where the shot is in the clip. So, nice weapon, but I will probably not be using it with the exception of in this mission. I kind of want to use this weapon a lot as Optimus, but not really a whole lot as any of the other characters, but it has its place.
Thank you, Bumblebee.
I think I got it. Try it now.
This is the only other time we'll see Bumblebee throughout the game. Bumblebee has no lines in this game, as I said before, which is lame, because I want to hear John Young Bosch again. But we gotta give all the other characters a spotlight, so even if it's just for a brief second. So speaking of which, it's time to make Silverbolt have his cameo.
Silverbolt's leaked too much.
Poor guy.
We need to stabilize his power. Grab that cable. Now plug it into his power supply.
Alright, Silverbolt, hang in there.
We need that power online.
Power's back.
Well met, Ratchet.
Can't have you down on us yet. We need you to
I'll
lead the
handle
aerial
rest,
bots.
Optimus. I'm sure you'll need it elsewhere.
Thanks.
Easy.
Okay, so he also has no lines in this game either. But these type of scenarios like this are both the best and some of the best and worst things about this game, though. The fact that you get these more realistic moments where you're really, you know, sympathizing with your troops and really sort of getting to know them a lot better. And, you know, doing the whole Optimus Prime thing of, you know, fighting alongside everybody and treating them equal and just being an all-around awesome leader. But on the downside, all these little quick-time event-y type things where you just press a button to do an action are really a major hindrance to the gameplay in this game, and they happen a little too often during the Optimus Prime levels, but I forgive them because there's so many other games that came out this year, namely third-person shooters that did quick-time events so much worse.
Count me in.
Nice to see you again, Warpath. Still voiced by Jameson Price, and awesome as usual. So this is the Teletran 1. This is the big point of contention for my decisions during this LP. This is basically a combination between the... it's kind of like the weapon vendors in Ratchet & Clank, except once you... But you still have the two weapon system in this game, so it's sort of your inventory and your weapons vendor at the same time. So, instead of finding weapons exclusively throughout the map, which you can still find, you can buy them here, and once you've bought them, you can just go to the Teletran 1 and equip a primary and a heavy weapon. I explained the heavy weapon system in the previous video. And then you can also equip your offhand utility type of weapon, which you don't have, you can't change your abilities. Every character, like I said, has one ability and then the dash. But this little secret area over here, it's got Grimlock's stash over here. His stash of disembodied heads, apparently. And his swords. There's a little thing we can interact with back here. But as you could see on the Teletran 1 screen, I have all the weapons, primary and heavy, unlocked, and I will use the liberty to use whichever ones I feel like using in any given situation if it's efficient for combat, because I'm playing on hard. And to play on hard, you kind of need a lot of those weapons unlocked. I mean, it would be an interesting challenge to go through with a clean slate on a new profile and go straight to hard. I would like to do that at some point, and that would probably be the best way to do this LP, is to get everything in one go, but I just was not prepared to do that this early, and I didn't want to do enough test playing to actually do that, so... But for the most part, I will try not to use weapons that we either shouldn't have at that point, or we don't find randomly lying around, because the weapons are pretty versatile. We really don't have to use a certain weapon at a certain time unless I give a specific reason for it. So I'm pretty much going to be just using whatever so I can make sure I've demonstrated all the weapons and that I have at least acknowledged where they can be utilized in certain scenarios. But the thermal rocket cannon, if I didn't mention in the last mission, it can actually lock onto ground enemies now, and it fires like a triple shot cluster. And it's really powerful now compared to how it was in the previous game, so it's much more proper rocket launcher. And here's the Scatter Blaster, which is also fully upgraded, and its fully upgraded additional ability that it gets unlocked is it can set enemies on fire. I'm not even kidding, it can set enemies on fire. It's pretty awesome for that reason. I like it so much better in this game than I did in the previous one, but I still don't really like to use it all that much. The sad part is the double barrel shotgun is, or the EMP shotgun as it was called, is a lot different. I'll be showing that off later on. There are some weapons though that you can
This jetpack is still
Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself there, but I picked up, like I said, I'm mainly going to be trying to show off weapons as we get them, or at least weapons that we should have at that point in the game, you know, relevant to where we are. We'll try not to show off any weapons that are, you know, either exclusive or we shouldn't have at that point in the game too early, but I will be showing off every weapon. So I picked up the Photon Burst Rifle there, our favorite weapon from the previous game, which is also pretty good here. I'll be demonstrating in a little while, but for now I want to get on this turret and defend this location from the incoming Decepticons, which they actually have dropships now. I'm pretty sure they didn't have dropships in the previous game, which dropships are pretty much an essential to any action game like this, where there's any third-person shooter, you gotta have dropships to bring in the enemies. There were dropships in the Armada game. They were obnoxious to kill, just like this one is, but we blew it up. Kind of surprised that the previous game didn't have dropships, but then again, the enemies were their, being that this is Transformers, the enemies are their own vehicles, so that's one thing that I kind of want to comment on with the enemies in this game. I'll probably do it again later when we get to see some more interesting enemy types, but the enemy types in this game are a lot more varied, and too many of them feel like they are just like random other robots. They don't really feel like Transformers, so they do have a very much an Armada game style feel to them, where they don't feel like other Transformers, and also the enemies do not transform on their own volition, except for the jets. So these guys right here will not randomly turn into car mode like they did in the previous game during combat, which I thought was a much more Transformery touch. I liked that they did that in the previous game. It didn't add any strategic value. They didn't utilize their alt modes in combat all that well, but it was just nice to see them do it, just for the sheer effect of it. So the Photon Burst Rifle, it has a scope, it has a 3-round burst, it is a precision weapon, it is all around awesome. As I said, it's basically the equivalent of the battle rifle from Halo 2, 3, and 4, now that 4 is out. Speaking of which, I've been enjoying, that's one of the reasons why I want to do this LP right now, is because if I didn't get these recordings out of the way, I'd be too occupied playing Halo 4 to do anything else. But, yeah, the nice thing about this version, though, in this game, is it doesn't have anything to do with an upgrade either. Is you can see the enemy's health bar while you're targeting them, which means you can see how much damage you're doing. You can even see the health bar of some tougher enemies to see, you know, how much damage and how much health they have left, and even some of the areas that receive more damage than others, find out their weak spots. You know, it's a useful ability. And the fully upgraded version, the final upgrade for the Photon Burst Rifle basically gives you the ability to use fully auto. It has a much faster rate of fire now. And like I said, it's one of my favorite weapons in the game, but I try not to overuse it too much, because it's just so good all around that I kind of like to use a more situation-specific weapon, because there's so many Teletrain 1 stations around. Yeah, that turret sequence can be a little bit tricky, but I have done it before on hard without ever having to get off the turret. So, it can be done, I just failed to do it this time because I'm recording on a tiny recording window. Anyway, Warpath's gonna help us get this jetpack off the wall here. Also deployed a clutch, which is a little floating sentry robot that helps us in combat there. That's one of the utility tech equipment.
Where is he now?
Those things basically replace the fact there's no offhand grenade throwing, as I said in the last video. So there's one more thing we can get from the Teletrain 1, and that's perks. And the perks are basically, you know, as you'd imagine, like in Call of Duty, they add certain passive abilities that are not, you don't have to trigger in the middle of combat. And they're actually, all of them are quite good. I highly recommend you invest the Energon into getting the ones that replenish your health and ammo. Oh, this is just a random weapons cabinet that'll have a random weapon that'll spawn in. Sometimes you can get some pretty rare weapons for it earlier in the game, but you can't keep them because you don't get the blueprints for them.
We nearly have the nerve center up and running again.
But they cost a little bit of Energon, so it's something you can consider. But if you have all the weapons unlocked for Teletrain 1, then it's just not even worth it.
Optimus, if you'd be so
But like I was saying, I highly recommend you get at the Teletrain 1 as soon as possible. You get the ones that regenerate your health and ammo. That way, whenever you find a Teletrain 1 station, you can automatically get all your health and ammo back, and you can basically run back to the Teletrain 1 to get more ammo for your weapon while you're in the middle of combat if there's a Teletrain 1 station near your encounter. So what we gotta do here is a little puzzle where we gotta go get this power cell and get it out of that room that has the electric current going through it. We gotta time it just right. It's a moleculon fuse, I guess. Put it in transformery terms.
Right, that should do it.
So Perceptor is just as perceptive as usual, as we can see, and that's another nice G1 touch there. I haven't seen Perceptor in a while.
We don't have enough energon.
Not sure who voices him, actually.
Can we spare any of that?
We don't get to play as him, unfortunately.
Worth a try.
We do in multiplayer, but not in Escalation or Campaign.
I can't do it from here.
Optimus, we got Cons knocking at the door!
Stay online, Perceptor, and guide me